One morning, my phone rang. It was the president of a California company. He'd been watching what I was up to and wanted to hire me. I was flattered. "We don't know what you make now," he said, "but we'll triple it." I had never heard God's voice so clearly on the phone before. "We'll be able to buy clothes that match for me," I told my wife. "A car that won't quit, a house that won't leak, and the kids are going to love it. We'll be close to Disneyland." 2 weeks later, we were off to California for a formal interview. Sitting around that oak boardroom table, I felt right at home. My sights were set on a bigger house, a newer car, security, success. All I had to do was squeeze the trigger. When the president said, "We'd like to hire you, we want you to take the job," I was ecstatic. Now that job offered a chance to better myself, to travel, and oh yes, there was a little bit of cash in it too. "How much time will I be gone from home?" I asked. There was silence. They looked at me like it was a trick question. "You'll be gone most of the time," the president said. My wife, Ramona, is gentle, but she was kicking me under the table. On the flight home, she expressed her concern. Basically, she said, "Life is lived in chapters. Shouldn't this one include 3 children and a wife who loves you? We'd really like to remember you for more than your rear end going out the front door. And we should be praying about this." Well, I thanked her for her opinion, but I knew God's will for my wife. I wanted that job. The irony of it all was this. I'd been burned out lately, flat on my back, and I began to ask myself what was pushing me to travel so fast, to work such long hours, and I knew the answer. It was my drive to acquire surface stuff, to give my family the things I never had: money, exotic vacations, jeans without patches. Still, I wanted that job. During our layover in Seattle, I had to use the little boys' room, and I entered a tiny stall and latched the door behind me, and suddenly this place began to shake. Lights flickered, doors rattled, walls shook. For the first time in my life, I was in an earthquake. Now, I don't know if you've ever thought about where you would like to die, but I bet your list doesn't include an airport washroom. The guy in the cubicle next to me said, "Did I do that?" And I was speechless in Seattle. I knew I was going to die. I had these images flash through my mind: the birth of our first child, friends, family. There was not one image of an SUV, a yacht, or the ladder to success. I got out of there as fast as I could, and I found my wife. I embraced her. I thought, I'm going to kiss her and let her feel the earth move one more time. Well, back on the plane, I scribbled these words on an airplane napkin. "I will consider myself a success when I'm walking close to Jesus every day, when I'm building a strong marriage, loving my kids, and performing meaningful work. I'll consider myself a success when I'm making others homesick for heaven." I'm ashamed to tell you, it took an earthquake to alter my definition of what matters most. You know, back in the 1800s, Henry Ward Beecher wrote, "No man can tell you whether he is rich or poor by turning to his wallet. It is the heart that makes a man rich." In John 10:10, Jesus tells about the Good Shepherd and says of those he loves, "My purpose is to give them a rich and satisfying life." This life comes from lining our priorities up with God's priorities, and remembering that 75 years down this road, no one is going to talk about the house we lived in, the car we drove, or the thickness of our bank account. But the world could be a better place if we invested all He's given us in those He's put into our lives, in His kingdom. For in the end, the things that matter most are not really things after all. Laughter is phenomenal medicine. Share it, like it, pass it on by subscribing to the button that you subscribe to. Then, hey, take the rest of the day off.